Good afternoon, my people. 4:48 p.m., 11/3/2017. Still no internet access. Still no new antenna. But that's okay. I'm keeping calm. I've been offline longer than this, believe it or not. I came on to finish what I was talking about with the houses earlier. That, like the lightning strikes that were around us in different houses there in Sedalia and Otterville, and the complete burnouts after I got here. Even there were several house burnings, and at one point I was even trying to joke it off with my son, saying, "Honey, they're shooting at me." You know, with the lightning strikes. I'm like, oh, wow. So I came on because, and yeah, I already snipped it. This screen here, as you can see, is a live solitary screen, or solitaire. And I was listening to another video, which I'll post with it, on my cell. It was like 20 some minutes long, 26 I think. But it dawned on me when I was buying my other, my cell screen, what had gone on here on my desktop screen. And yeah, that's a little off kilter there, but I can fix that. Okay. So I clipped it, like I said. Look what was right. And he was talking about 666 at the time that I happened to look up, and these were staring me in the face like this. So you got doot, doot, doot. You got it one way, and you got it doot, doot, doot the other way, because there's all four sixes right there. Then I looked up here, and that's 13. Well, you can see that pretty clear yourself. That was my big whoop-de-doo, so I thought, okay, and I already saved it, so I thought that was kind of interesting, and see what would come from. I don't know. That's going to be kind of interesting to follow up there. But my house thing, we covered the first two. The one my mom gave us that we had to pay for, the gift. And the second one we moved to, that we contracted for, across from the daycare. Now see, to me, that there itself aligns itself to pedogate. Okay? I don't know if I can make this any more clearer than I previously stated it as, but if it's not pedogate, okay, and he didn't have an offense against him that they would have jumped on and said, no, you can't move across from a daycare, don't you know anything, mister? Then how could they sentence him as a repeat offender? Okay, so there's that one. And we had moved several times before we got to that one. I think I counted one time, we had moved like 14 times. Another house we had trouble with before that one, though, was one when our son was really small. And we just needed something else, we were both in such a way, mentally. We were grounded, but we weren't exactly stable. You know what I'm saying? Or vice versa. We were stable, but we weren't exactly well grounded. Whatever, but We went to this old house after we saw it listed in the paper, way out on Boonville. And it just happened to be across the street from a well-known cop there, well-loved cop, Jim Stutzenbach. We rented that house in the dark. We got there in the evening. And when I say in the dark, I mean there were no lights on in the house. We're like, okay, we'll take it. We didn't know about Jim living across the street yet, but like I said, we needed something. I think I remember lighting a lighter going through there, like, here, you know, look here. That's not the way to rent a house, or buy one for that matter. You need to have it fully lit, and check all your outlets, and, you know, have a little something in your pocket or bag that you can whip out and check the sockets and see if you get electrical, anything, you know, something small and insignificant. I don't know what, like what, like a little, I don't know, nightlight or something small just to test it. And a nightlight doesn't take up that much, you know, wouldn't use that much to put it off on somebody paying the bill, like, oh, they plugged in some humongous, you know, crazy thing to check them all. No, but you have those rights, right? So the first thing you don't have to do is call up your landlady and, can you send so-and-so over here and fix this? I need this plug-in. No, you want that taken care of before you get in there and try to get comfortable. So, but we couldn't see it when we rented it. But like I said, we weren't very stable. Or if it was stable, then it wasn't grounded. It was one or the other, okay? First thing you know, it's winter. And that house is so freaking cold. We had a bill, one heat bill, that was well over $1,200 for that month. And my mom, being a tight-fisted tyrant like she was, wasn't about to pay that out of pocket. You know? And really, can you blame her? No. So she took me over to like the Salvation Army, aka the Sally, to apply for the heating assistance. And they paid that bill. But see, I think the deal was back then, if you get them to pay one bill, that's it. They already, I think it's like one bill per winter, you know, per year that they will pay. And that was a big one. Normal houses we lived in were $300 to $500 heat bills. That's still not cheap. Okay? But I mean, the wind was blowing right through that freaking house. So that was one of the house problems we had. So that's 3. Let's see, I'm trying to think of the worst of the very worst. One we moved into over there near my mom and dad's house, where they lived on East 10th for years. It was just off Engineer on 9th Street. About a block and a half from them. So if John had the car, which he regularly did, to go to work, Brad and I could still walk over to my mom's. It was, you know, that close. And not be in any kind of distress or anything from a really long walk. Which I'd done in my younger years, of course. Long walks were nothing back then. But when you've got a kid who won't walk, and you end up carrying him, you don't want it to be very darn far, especially if you've got groceries too. Okay? He was a little bit big, too big for a stroller at that point. And someone suggested I get one of those little leashes. I know what that conjures up in your mind, believe me. But this was a friendly kind. It was more like a little ribbon, a blue and white striped ribbon from Kmart. It was like under $3. Could have made one myself if I'd thought about it, but saw that, grabbed it. A little Velcro thing around his wrist and then a loop on the adult end of it. Wasn't anything brutal, like a spiked dog collar thing or anything near that. It was just to keep a hold of him without having to hold his hands while I've got other things, groceries to carry, or, you know, the bowl of goldfish or something, right? But he would throw a fit. We would leave my mom's house. I remember distinctly how Mr. Bradley was. Get down the front set of steps and then the second set of steps on down to the sidewalk. Up past Mom and Dad's driveway. Just west there to the neighbor's, in front of the neighbor's house. And he would sit flat down and start screaming. He did not like that idea. So I had to carry him. And he dried it right up as soon as I picked him up. But that thing on his wrist was like the biggest evil in the world. So I felt kind of sorry for my little sweetie, you know. He was such a cute little kid. Such a cutie. And yeah, I bragged on him. I still do. He was a cute little guy. But him and that little leash idea, and I do wonder if when he gets kids of his own, if he tries one of those, that'll happen. You know, and then he'll know what I was talking about. He'll see it firsthand then. So, there was that house I was heading to with him, the little rental over there on 9th. There were so many leaks in that kitchen. I called the cops a lot from that house. Not on the leaks, of course, but I had 23 different leaks in that kitchen. And I remember because of all the different little items that I had to set around to try to catch them all. And it's where Bradley learned the word exactly. Because in my speaking with his dad, and of course little ears hear everything, I'd say something exactly. And he, next thing you know, he's going, exactly did. That's how he said it, exactly did. So I thought that was just as cute as pie, you know. The way he picked up on things. He was always such a little crackerjack. Let's see if there was any other really hard houses to live in. The one on Washington, the bills got really high there too. Back to the one on 9th though. It got so cold and the furnace went out. And John walked Bradley and I over to my parents. Called, of course, first to make sure it was okay. And I mean, it wasn't not going to be okay, but if they were home, because they, go their meetings and stuff in the evenings, and get over there. And he went back to babysit that furnace all night and try to keep it lit, which he said was not going to happen. It'd light and then go right out. So that was another thing we had gone through at that house, and some kind of ground squirrels had gotten in Brad's pen one time, and I went in there in the morning. He had fallen asleep in the playpen, which sometimes if he did that, rather than wake him, I'd let him stay there because I never saw any harm because there was a pad in there. But I called the police about that too because his pen was all chewed up. But here I am running out of time again, so I'll catch you in the next one.